Hello Galactic Family, this is Hakan speaking. I greet you in peace and love. Today I wanted to discuss that some Pleiadians have a much higher level of consciousness than other Pleiadians. There are Pleiadians who have a high level of consciousness and they usually spend their time as non-physical beings, although they can materialize. These Pleiadians tend, for example, not to concern themselves with matters such as maintaining a physical military in order to ward off physical malevolent galactics. They tend not to spend a lot of time having physical sex with other beings. If these beings are channeled, and no dark or gray being is impersonating them, and the channel is pure enough, then these beings come across as pleasant and loving and high vibration. They may also remind you of past lives where you were a non-physical master, and therefore these messages may feel like home. That said, their messages may not always be super practical, because after all they're non-physical beings who don't have to deal with a lot of the practical stuff that Tunia and Rakak and Earth humans and myself have to deal with. Then there are Pleiadians who have more of a medium level of consciousness. It's higher than the average Earth person but lower than the non-physical master Pleiadians. These medium consciousness Pleiadians are physical beings most of the time. Tunia and myself are such Pleiadians. Among our kind, I am seen as a skilled and hard-working and sometimes over-serious military commander, but spiritually speaking I am considered average among my people. Tunia is seen as one of the channelly women and as someone who is quite interested in Earth and who is pleasant to be around, but again her level of consciousness is about average by our standards. That said, the channeler is being guided to primarily channel us, with our medium level of consciousness, because the channeler soul thinks that there are already a number of good channelers out there who channel high consciousness beings. And Earth could benefit from someone channeling medium consciousness beings such as Tunia and myself. From my perspective, medium consciousness messages such as ours aren't worse or better than high consciousness messages. They're simply different, and Earth humans are free to choose who they wish to listen to. Medium consciousness messages have the advantage that they are more practical, but obviously they are not as high vibration as messages from high consciousness beings. To reach high levels of consciousness, you have to master medium levels of consciousness first. So in your spiritual journey, you will probably have to attain something roughly like the level of consciousness of Tunia and myself, before you can attain high levels of consciousness and be a primarily non-physical being. You can't skip the medium levels of consciousness, no matter how many high consciousness messages you listen to, and trying to skip the medium levels is actually a form of resistance that could hold you back until you release that resistance. You can't go from primary school straight to a PhD, even if you regularly read message from people with PhDs. You have to actually go through and master middle school yourself, and then start your bachelor program at university, etc., before you start your PhD. I'd like to think of Tunia and Rakak and myself as good middle school teachers. That said, Tunia and I are advised and helped by high consciousness and wise beings, which is part of why we occasionally use we in our messages. This isn't really Hakan's message, it's more like Hakan's message, that is then checked by one or more higher consciousness beings. Sometimes a discussion is had, and when everyone agrees the message is passed on to the channeler. Hence the we and Tunias on my messages. And Tunia and myself aren't passing along any message to the channeler that a high consciousness being thinks would be a bad idea to communicate to Earth people. You can absolutely get inspired and learn from people with PhDs too. We're not saying you shouldn't listen to those messages. It's just that middle school can be messy and unpleasant, and it can be tempting to think, isn't love all we need? Let's just only listen to the non-physical masters. Everyone suggesting that we need to deal with messy physical reality is just too low vibration for me. This doesn't work super well, because they are non-physical beings and right now you're not, therefore they simply don't need to deal with certain things that you do. They have the luxury of currently being non-physical. You don't. You also didn't become a physical being in order to not engage in physical reality. Yes, at some point you chose to be born as a physical being. For example, war is bad and people should never fight is true at the PhD level. It's true for non-physical masters. But it's not true in middle school. Indeed, the situation on Earth would be worse if us physical Pleiadians adopted that attitude and stopped fighting those few remaining malevolent physical galactics. So you can't skip middle school, and resisting middle school just delays your progress. Non-physical Pleiadian masters too had to learn at some point in time that sometimes it can be necessary to fight to defend the innocent. Non-physical Pleiadian masters too had to learn at some point how to have a satisfying sex life. You can't transcend earthly concerns without first having mastered them. In fact, you'd transcend those topics exactly by releasing resistance to, perhaps getting experience with them, and certainly by understanding those topics on a nuanced level. We're talking more nuanced than, war is bad, sex is just that thing makes babies and that is sort of fun to do once per month, but ultimately there's not much to be gained from sex other than some fun and connection. Well, no, war to defend the innocence is at times justified, and sex can be so much more than just some physical fun and connection. In fact, this whole Earth programming of sex is bad or sex isn't something that should be discussed in polite society was originally meant to control you and keep you down, because sex can help you tap into your inner strength and inner powers. Even if you don't engage in energy sex or sex magic or tantric sex and you just have conventional sex with your one partner, which is of course fine, then still having a good sex life with the person you love can be very healing and nourishing. Casual sex should just be engaged in responsibly, if at all, as Tunia discussed in her previous message, Tunia, how to not get damaged by casual sex. If a part of you desires sex, but another part of you feels that sex is some base desire that should be ignored, then that inner conflict is going to slow down your spiritual progress. The easiest way out of that inner conflict is to just have an amazing sex life for a while, and that will satisfy the part of you that desires sex, and then eventually you can move on to a place where there isn't any part of you anymore that craves sex. But if you directly try to go to a place where you try to get yourself to desire no sex, then what will likely happen in practice is that a repressed part of you will remain sexually frustrated, and this repressed part of you will slow down your spiritual progress. In extreme cases, this can even lead to seemingly advanced spiritual teachers sexually abusing their students. That is what repressing desires can lead to. Of course, usually it doesn't get this extreme, usually it just leads to delayed spiritual growth. But even that is bad enough. Don't skip middle school. Tunia isn't just semi-regularly talking about sex because she enjoys talking about it. Although there's that too. She also semi-regularly talks about sex because that, too, is one topic that is to be mastered in middle school. At least, for the vast majority of people. There are people who are genuinely asexual, and in that case you can skip the topic, but most people who think that sex just isn't that important for them are people who simply have not yet had a really good and stable sexual connection, and they would benefit from having that for at least a while, including benefiting spiritually. If you are in resistance to Tunia describing Pleiadian orgies, or to the idea that militaries are useful to defend the innocent, or are in resistance to other such middle school topics, then you would benefit spiritually from observing and eventually releasing that resistance. Of course, it's fine if those middle school topics aren't the ones you feel drawn towards engaging with at this point in time. Also, for the middle school curriculum, you don't really need to learn anything about war other than though it's horrible, it's also sometimes necessary to defend the innocent. Once you accept that, you can stop studying more. Not everyone needs to become a soldier, but some are called to physically fight to defend the innocent, and that's okay. After all, there are plenty of beings out there who will accept nothing but your death or enslavement, and there's no way to deal with it other than accepting that some people who feel called will use physical force to defend the innocent. If you disagree, keep in mind that your own living situation would be far worse right now if certain good-hearted galactics and Earth humans hadn't been fighting a covert war to protect the people of Earth. So if you have resistance to middle school topics such as war to defend the innocent, or sex, then it may feel good to release that resistance. I get that non-physical masters have grown beyond that, and their messages feel like home because it's quite possible you used to be one in a past life and that felt amazing. However, right now you don't have the luxury of being non-physical. You can't skip middle school. This also ties into a previous point I made. You absolutely should follow the guidance from your soul or equivalently from your intuition, however guidance from your emotions is not always reliable. And for the majority of light workers, it's usually their emotions that are telling them that this message resonates and that one doesn't. Many people indeed get and recognize a flash of intuition every now and then, but the majority of this resonates. That doesn't for most light workers is still emotion-based and not soul-based. Which means that feelings of this resonates, that doesn't aren't always reliable. Though if you are one of the relatively few light workers who can genuinely feel what resonates on a soul level, then absolutely follow that, including over anything that Tunia and I and anyone else says. If your soul disagrees with what I say, then please follow your soul. It's because soul guidance is so valuable that we have repeatedly suggested in past messages that you try to listen to your soul, and we have discussed how you can attempt to do that. If you missed that and are interested, feel free to listen to the older messages, they are still relevant. One way to find those is to scroll to the bottom of this article and click on Source. And then you're directed to YouTube where all of Tunia's and my messages can be found. And if on YouTube you find a message that you are curious about, but you prefer text to audio, then you can always Google the name of that message plus Areoflight plus Tunia or Hakan, and you'll find the written version of that message on eraoflight.com, because what kind of teacher would I be if I wasn't actively trying to help you reach a place where you didn't need me anymore? At the same time, we are learning a lot from you. You have much more experience than we do with standing in your light and standing in your truth in a world of darkness. You have more experience than we do with finding your way to the light. And we respect that and find that inspiring. If you take the average Pleiadian soul, and if you let him or her get born on Earth, then likely they would just get lost in the confusion, or become yet another person whose life is just work and distraction and occasional pleasure. Hence we can learn a lot from you, you who are actually standing up and speaking truth and helping others at a time when that is difficult. We are the equivalent of someone who was born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and you are the equivalent of the self-made millionaire. Of course, ultimately I am just sharing my perspective. Naturally you are free to form your own opinions, and you're free to choose which messages you wish to tune into and which messages you don't. We are heading into the cusp of all the previous month's energies. A new passage whose main Lyran and Sirian frequencies are key to continue restoring the many damaged Earth structures. This year the 8/8 Lions portal is like nothing we have previously experienced, especially in planetary grid work. From an individual perspective to a planetary one, everything is being transformed, and this year the focus is mainly on bringing restoration to the damaged planetary grid structures that were massively distorted to keep us uncommunicated from other dimensions, between many other non-benevolent purposes, and that are now finally being rehabilitated. Everyone can help by sending love and healing blessings to the Earth, even though not a grid worker as such, as there are many types of planetary healers, and all of them are equal to help on Earth's restoration, for we all are one with it, and as ascending souls, we all have an agreement to treat Earth with the utmost respect, as she too provides for us. We are at a time when our planet is retrieving its original planetary order, and communication with other timeliness, and it is pivotal for us to support this new opening through personal clearing and alignment of our own body portals. During the Lion's portal, we are going to be assisted again to continue with this planetary mission. As you know, our planet has many structures, such as the fabrics of time and space, and many others that are being rehabilitated, which is why we are too able to restore our DNA. During the 8/8 portal, one of the most important tasks to work with that guides invite us to do, is supporting the restoration of the original Lyran planetary grid network, built by our forefathers and destructed eons ago. This is the first message I received yesterday to share for all, and that shall be initiated at this moment, for it is not about a specific day, as its energies are already amongst us. Our main focus at this time is on Egypt, south of France, Bermuda in the Atlantic Ocean, which is a 5D portal that helps stabilize the planetary Merkaba fields, Easter Island, which is already a massive grid complex for stabilization, and an interdimensional portal to other worlds, between many other things. As to me, personally, this is the most important gate on our planet. Lastly, Iran's Organic Earth's Gate, all-important planetary gates that when recoded, can help us heal our heart-mind system, and above all, our original Lyran and Blu-ray human genetic history lineage, and connection. Egypt and Bermuda represent the element water, while Easter Island represents fire and Iran air. Important elemental forces for us to work with, to restore the elemental organic earth forces and the water elemental, so damaged in our planet. Each space will require different ways to work with. As a planetary worker you will receive all the instructions when you go to the field, whether physically, or remotely. Our Aurora guides give us a crystal to anchor the current energies, an azurite to connect with the 8/8 portal. For azurite's essence is one of the Aurora crystals, for the purpose of opening our soul portal, reconnecting our upper channels, and especially for its ability to help us communicate with the illumined gods WOLRDS, so important for the grid workers. As a tool for planetary workers, guides give us the geometry known as Sri Yantra, whose main purpose is to help planetary workers communicate with the different timelines, for this geometry holds all the universes in one pattern. When used properly to restore spaces or at a personal level, it helps us cancel programs such as blame, guilt, mind control, and many other similar ones, seeding liberation for us all to be free sovereign beings again. It is a freedom code for grid workers to seed it on the specific places where they go to work and find slavery patterns. At a personal level, the 8/8 portal will also bring liberation, as the previous Aquarian moon on August 1st confirms too. Energies that will support feminine healing, especially around certain spaces such as Iran, open the gate for healing frequencies to be descended and anchored upon them for emotional healing of eons of feminine repression. For the first time in our human history, we are retrieving our authentic planetary grid system, moving into a more simultaneous time, and allowing these new openings to restore our physical bodies, for our human liberation. As ascending souls, we all assist by being genuine, by seeding our unique essence, light and personal truth where we are. We do not need to do more or be more, for we are always enough, as everything God's birth is perfect, as it is made in His image. Our mission is to embrace unconditional love and be in a space of divine neutrality, so we can continue spreading love throughout the many earth structures and places that welcome our healing light. The rest is up to God's will and highly evolved beings that are not ours to micromanage or understand, for our role is to simply be love and surrender. It is a very intense subject, and I have to give incredible thanks and support, and just pay real respect and honor to those who contacted me to say that they were in support of last week's message, and that they realize it's a tough issue, but one that requires that we send a lot of light to now. So in these energies coming in, I find that light workers are asking so many questions as they're feeling old trauma coming up from this and other lives. Or there's something that feels to be really shadowy. And maybe that's based on grief or rage or loss and abandonment. So we don't really have to blame ourselves, would say, just allow those feelings. Let it come up. The collective often encourage people, have for years encouraged people to get a pen and paper and write at the top, what's going on that I feel so awful about such and such. Or just in general whatever it is that's happening with you. And then switch the pen to the other hand, and just let the story come out. And that's your subconscious speaking. That could be a past life self-explaining what happened in a past life. It could be your child aspect. It could be a lot of different things. But at least then you'll know what you're grappling with. And that will only be one aspect of what you're dealing with in that issue, because most light bearers have been on this earth hundreds of times. Some more than 1,000 times. I know there are starseed who are very new to Earth life, and yet, you've experienced a lot on other planets, and those memories are deep in our subconscious. So I think it's important to let this come forward now. So I'm going to hand this over to Kuan Yin. She came through a few days ago to let me know that she would like to speak on these issues, and I'm honored to bring her through for you, and to encourage everyone to the energetic transmission that comes with her words to go straight to your heart, and to heal many, many things that you don't even know are there. While these ascension energies are flowing in, while this powerful light is coming in, so much is coming up to the surface. So I'm going to let Kuan Yin speak now, and request that she step forward. To Kuan Yin Namaste, dear one. She is known as the Ascended Master who is particularly focused on mercy and compassion, and connection to the suffering of others in ways that elevate us, so you'll hear her next. Kuan Yin, greetings, dear ones. I know each of you by your light, and I am honored all of us in the collective likewise honored to be a part of this gathering, which though it takes place over a variety of space-times, nevertheless lives in oneness. And yes, mercy, compassion, connection to those who have suffered is a great part of my path and always has been. And I congratulate all of you coming forward at this time, when there is so much to be reckoned with, and so much to be faced that has lived in shadow, partly because that's all it ever knew. And so, as this dear one was saying, we ask please that you not consider that you are of a low vibration just because things are coming up now. Old anger, old shock, old pain of various kinds. Perhaps feelings of insecurity, you might feel alone and abandoned. This is not coming up because this is the full truth of your existence. It's coming up because all of these solar light particles flowing onto the earth now are seeping not only into every cell of the physical body, but every particle of the spirit and the consciousness. So anything there, as they say, that is not like love or love itself, is going to come up. It's going to rise up now to where you can see it and deal with it and bless it. And you don't have to heal everything all at once. In the ascension process, much is healed merely at times, by being quiet, by surrendering, and letting go. It's not all about hard work. It's not even all about meditation, although in those moments, you will, dear ones, you will see far more clearly and why you have come. So what we're going to do, is call in all of your spirit teams. We're going to request that they lay before us and all in the collective, who are here down what each of you is suffering with right now, and we're going to lend a lot of healing energy to that. Now, Archangel Raphael, naturally, is here. But what we are offering is the vibration of being heard, finally child self finally being able to tell all of the story of what they have been through. And the inner self that is hidden for the most part from the world, and perhaps even from your conscious mind and awareness at times. Knowing that they are loved and supported in all ways, and that it's not a matter of belief. It's not a matter of thought or subscribing to one particular idea or system than a healing system. Even a higher light system. It's a matter of just breathing, and just being for a moment. And so, go into your breath, dear ones. We are working with all of you, that's right, all of the higher selves and guides now laying everything, all of your angelic guardians, laying everything before us and all of the beautiful divine masters and angels within the collective nature spirits, the earth elements. Wonderful. All are participating now. And we are holding all of this that all of you have suffered, and which you connect with some aspect of yourself who'd rather not look at it, it's too painful. Or it lives in shadow. It does this and that, contradicts with your higher ideals, etc. We are placing all of that into a beautiful circle of light, and asking Saint Germain in particular to step forward, to work with his beautiful transmuting violet flame, to raise the vibration of all these circumstances, and to rinse you free of the struggle of having to release them on your own. That is no longer necessary. There is great help for all of you. There is great and beautiful help, dear ones. Put everything into that beautiful circle of light, please, spirit teams, wonderful. And if you yourselves have something to put into that circle, go ahead, dear ones. Something you don't understand. Something that's too painful to look at, or something you cannot name, but which seems to be lurking deep inside your inner life. Now, we wanted to speak also on this issue of child trafficking, and also in the broader sense, all children who have their life energy stolen from them by sexual abuse, which can be replenished is not a forever sort of contract or agreement at all. But the dear one putting out the video, whom the collective refer to as their writer, and she is of course asking why would someone write into their life chart, being trafficked, being abused this way, or being sexually abused or abused in other ways that feel to be soul-crushing. And so we are calling on the higher selves now, as well as casting an eye out over all of your life charts, and just listening, as well as taking in the energetic components of those life blueprints which you compose in the higher realms before incarnating, of course. So a good number of you, as was discussed last week, have wanted to release ought entirely repudiate, but release the need to define oneself through physical life. This may sound strange, because to the child who's been abused, there is an awful lot going on that relates their life to their physical body, because of course the trauma, while creating separations, also creates an indelible link between one's everyday life and one's sexuality, sense of self, sense of safety. Whether the world is a good and safe and honorable place to live, or a place never to be trusted. And so, looking into the blueprints, not only have people wanted to expunge and release any shadow, any abuse they have put upon others, and to understand what they have put others through, but to take on now we're seeing quite a number of reasons popping up. We'll finish this one. The idea was to take on a particular form of punishment and to bear the scars of that until healing could be achieved, and that healing would then elevate one to a level at which they would know themselves in a very new, and empowering, and a far higher way than they would have known themselves without that abuse. So this means climbing one of the tallest mountains in earth life that exists. And it means going straight into the soul for yes, comfort and encouragement, but also for a reason that has no reason. For a level of divine love that does not need the mind's participation or comprehension in order to move forward. And so there is this ongoing sense of, how do I climb above this? And that particular road, very well traveled now, will lead one to new and higher understandings of one's own soul growth and soul strength. Now, coupled with that, particularly for those who think of themselves as starseed and light-bearers, coupled with that is the desire to be in those circumstances to instill higher light into the heart and mind and soul of the child pedophile networks, but also of every single abuser. Very single person who devises these plans and or profits from them, connects to them in any way, uses them so as to access children for dark reasons, or feels that they're not so bad, or probably don't exist. At least not in my country. This is what many will think. And unfortunately there has been a backlash recently since the movie Sound of Freedom was released, where there have been people, for instance, being interviewed on television, and these interviews put up on YouTube, saying, maybe these issues exist, but not in this country. Not the US or UK or Australia, or what have you. And of course, they exist in nearly every country, particularly the more powerful ones. Slavery has been used as a form of profit, of course, by the old power structure, for many, many centuries. So those of you personally affected by this form of abuse, whether trafficked or abused by those that you knew or came to know, those in your social circles, or someone who just happened to take advantage of the moment, whether you knew them or not, who have been planting powerful light transmissions into every aspect of this issue. And therefore, it is not what it was. This form of abuse has been unfortunately one of the biggest ways in which the old power structure and its members gleaned more life energy power, and more co-creative power. Yes, in dark ways that are seeing now to their slow but sure destruction in many cases, and seeing to the destruction of their power structure. But certainly while Earth was caught in a very low vibration, they got away with it for a very long time. Except that now, those coming in, particularly those who are children now (GE18), in their teens and younger, all the way down to infancy, come in with a very special and very powerful light. So to abuse one of these, take one of them, then though their human consciousness will feel victimized and traumatized, their soul and their soul family are working 1,000 times harder than ever they did before to plant light into this issue, into the abusers, into the network owners and operators, into those who suffer under these criminal acts, and into the Earth herself, which has been defiled over the centuries by dark intent, as obviously you all know. To infuse powerful light, there has been absolutely incredible light and energies, onal vibrations and energies of inner knowing that those who have participated in or who have run these organizations and their goings-on, are having now to face things that even 10 years ago they would not have faced. Or only fleetingly would have wondered what it meant, this dream or nightmare, or this person saying this or that to them, or this feeling in their heart space or their mind malfunctioning in some way. They would have wondered what was going on, and now they have a feeling deep down that they know what's going on. They're too terrified of their own abusers, their own owners, their own slave masters. Step out of the network and to do as they would prefer, which is to run from this criminality and this cruelty. So to say that those who have come to the earth now who are suffering this kind of abuse have a very, very great mission that they are carrying out, is putting it lightly. This is not to say, all is well, all is fine, tease okay if children suffer, because there's a higher reason. Most assuredly, none of us in the collective would say that. None of us in the higher realms would say that. It is not all right. But consider, dear ones, that as the shadow aspects come up within yourself, notice how much more you are willing to heal and to move forward into the light. And how much more then, would those who have been in shadow for centuries knee incarnation after another, much more would they begin to wake up and realize, there's something big going on. You might drink a glass of pure water, structured water laced with pure love and pure light. Perhaps those words would be written on a bit of paper that is taped to the glass container. And you wait an hour or so, and you drink the water while it holds the emotional and spiritual resonance of love or peace, or whatever the words are. And you drink it, and you feel beautifully comforted. You feel calmer. You feel your energies lift. You begin to remember from somewhere deep inside how completely loved you are. Now, someone from that other side of things, who abuses very knowingly, who understands what they're doing and does it anyway, for their own gratification or for money or for both, they drink that same glass of water, dear ones, and they will be overcome with feelings that disturb and upset and trouble them many times over, without being able to name exactly what is happening. Unless they see that word love or piece of kindness or compassion written on the side of the glass, and then they will begin to understand, it's not just a word. It's a vibration, and I have taken it in. They may try to spit out what they've had from that glass of water. They may be sorry they ever drank it. Yet something within them, child within them who was crushed and abused, will resonate on a higher level, and will begin to have a clearer voice, and begin to influence more and more that abusers or the criminals' goings on in life. And we wish to say, in a funny kind of way, you are that love-filled essence that these ones are taking in. You fill the very air and very essence of the environment that you live in on this planet with exactly that kind of magic. Exactly that healing power, and nothing less. And so you can look at outer events such as war and climate disaster and trafficking of all kinds, and all kinds of abuses in the world, and decide, oh, everything's dreadful. I just feel awful. You can do that if you feel you must. And yet, you have come in at this time for such powerful reasons, dear ones. You have come in to heal others. You have come in to raise the vibration of this planet to where the abuse of humanity's own children would be beyond unthinkable. Likewise, the abuse of elders, of refugees and immigrants, of all those who say, for being non-white, or for having grown up in a particular ethnicity or religion, or social class or income level, are systematically put down and vilified, and either ignored or stuffed into a prison somewhere. You have come in to let all of the prisoners know they are free. And the worst sorts of prisoners on your planet are those who think they are in control. Who are headed straight for their own destruction if they do not return to the light. And we don't say that anyone's going to drop a bomb on them or anything. But they will face divine goddess, give an account, be given a last chance to come over into the light. If they refuse, this is a result of their making. What befalls them then? Inner self-will and self-determination and human will, human choice, are all honored. Honored by Mother Sekhmet. Honored by the Saturn Tribunal. Honored by this universe, and the laws of this cosmos. Don't ever doubt that, dear ones. Don't ever doubt that all of you made your choice for the light. Because this is who you are and what you must do off. And so you didn't come in to be a victim, no. And neither did any of these others who appear to have been victimized. They came in to anchor so much light that this beautiful ascending planet will never be the same. And so we ask that you not come to the conclusion that if you were abused in this life, you were an awful person in other lives. While some of that may hold some truth, that is not the full story. That is only part of it, and perhaps this channeled expression on these issues will continue a bit longer, to offer even more reasons. But those are the ones we offer today, dear ones, with much love, and many blessings. There is an old hymn of Christendom, I know that my Redeemer liveth. And we would say that that Redeemer is all of you. Yeshua Jesus of Nazareth, having come and only to set an example, not to be worshipped. And we would say that all of the light that you are, gathered in the oneness of universal light, which is pure love, is indeed renewing, rebirthing, reforming, transforming this beautiful Lady Gaia. Thank you so much for watching our videos, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the like button. We appreciate your support and enthusiasm for the planetary ascension. It means a lot to us that you are interested in this important and transformative topic. We are constantly working to bring you new and exciting content related to the planetary ascension, and we are thrilled to have you along for the journey. As we continue to explore this fascinating subject, we will share our insights and discoveries with you. We believe that by coming together and sharing our knowledge, we can help to usher in a new era of consciousness and understanding on our planet. Thank you again for being a part of this community, and we look forward to sharing more with you soon.